Hey everyone, and welcome to the Hazy Sports Podcast. We got a big day today. It's been one hell of a long weekend full of great hockey games. Happy May 2-4, buddy. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Happy May 2-4 to you. This weather today reminds me of our old May 2-4s when you'd be bundling up, in a snowsuit going to Molson Park to watch a concert or something.
Yeah, I'm kind of happy. Those were some fun times, but I don't mind being sort of cozy and comfortable in my own home, watching this great slate of hockey we got this weekend. It was a real treat here for the long weekend. We had Friday night Leafs tied it back up to force a game seven. We had a big game six Dallas Jets last night. And of course, we've got Game 7 Leafs Panthers tonight, and a couple Game 7 in NBA as well today. So a nice little slate to settle in on this rainy weather over the long weekend and watch some great hockey.
Absolutely. And before we came on here, I just saw that Aaron Gordon isn't going to be playing for Denver today. He's got a pulled hammy pretty bad, so that's a bit of a blow for the Nuggets. But anyways, this isn't a basketball show.
Well, yeah, we'll dive in. We had actually that was kind of fun for those who didn't listen. We had our first live stream last night before the Jets Stars game, our hazy night in Canada. It was kind of cool to try that out. So something we might do a little bit more often, but kind of fun doing our own little pregame show, having a beer, getting fired up, and then enjoying what was a great game.
Yeah, the game was nuts. To you, did it not feel like each period it just ramped up a little bit more until the third, where it was just like the last 10 minutes of that game were like the most intense hockey I think I've seen so far in the playoffs?
Yeah, it's one of the notes I had written down was just like, even though it wasn't a high scoring game, it was very exciting. Obviously, a big goaltending battle there. Both Hellebuck and Ottinger playing great last night, making huge saves. It was kind of edge of the seat excitement pretty much all the way through.
Yeah, and you were just like there were so many almost goals. Like there was a lot of times me and my son were watching it and we were like almost jumping off the couch, but then you see this crazy save or hits a post and it was just like, I have no rooting interest in either of those teams, but it just drew you in. Like the drama of it all was pretty awesome. Like that's what hockey playoffs are all about last night.
Yeah, I think Mason Appleton's going to be seeing that empty net in his dreams for the whole summer. That's for sure. I still can't believe that didn't go in, but a nice play by Ottinger. But I'm sure he'd like to have another crack at that.
I watched the replay of that this morning and he definitely missed the shot a little bit, but it couldn't have gone any in a worse spot. Like you had the whole right side of the net wide open and it somehow made it across to the other side. And it was just like he even put his hands up thinking it was in. You're right though, it's going
Yeah,
to haunt him.
yeah. But unfortunately, the main storyline of the game yesterday was really around Mark Scheifele and his dad tragically passing away the night before. So quite a roller coaster. We find out kind of in the afternoon about that. And then around 6 o'clock, it gets confirmed that he is going to play. And so I think, the country and all hockey fans out there were probably rooting for a Winnipeg win, a nice moment for Scheifele and hoping the hockey gods were kind of going to be on his side. And they were, and then they weren't. Kind of a crushing 24-hour period for Scheifele there.
When he scored the goal, like I know even like us watching it, we're like just let out a big yeah, like so felt so good for the guy, and to see him go to the bench, and like high fiving the guys on the bench, and you could see the smile on his face. I was like, oh, we're getting a one of those classic sports moments, and we did. It was just maybe on the wrong end of the classic sports moment with the trip later on, which resulted in the power play for Dallas, but. I don't know. It's amazing to me. I was pretty sure he was gonna play, but you kind of wonder where his head would be at. But I don't think he could play a better game.
Yeah, he played great. It was just a shame that it had to kind of come down to that right at the end of the period there, sort of cough it up at the blue line. Oh, you kind of got to make that trip rather than let a guy go in completely free. A lot of debate whether that should have been a penalty shot. I texted you right away thinking
Yeah.
that should have been a penalty shot probably. In hindsight, maybe they would have been better off if it was a penalty shot from a Jets perspective, giving Hellebuck a chance to just make the one save versus
Minutes.
killing the 2 minute power play right off the start of OT. But yeah, tough break there. He's up, he's down, and yeah, it's going to be a tough off season for him. But we'll be pulling for him from a hockey fan's perspective.
Did you watch the intermission before the overtime where they were talking about teams should have a choice? Do you want the penalty shot or the power play? I thought that was an interesting conversation. Because on the one, like I don't know, on the one hand you got one of the best goalies in the world, and not exactly a sniper that would be taking the penalty shot. As Dallas, would you take the power play or would you go for the penalty shot? Like
Yeah,
it's
it's
kind
good.
of it's kind of no lose, right? Like Dallas was kind of gaining the momentum there. I think if you could end it, that obviously would have ended the game. But then maybe if Hellebuck makes the save, you get a bit of a shift going back the other way. It's an interesting idea, I think.
Yeah, I think if I was Dallas, I probably would have taken the penalty shot with that chance to close it out right then and there. But it ended up working out for them with the power play. I thought David Amber made a good point in that intermission where he said that the Jets were killing off 75% of their penalty kills. You got to think Hellebuck's chance of saving it is better than 75%. So you almost would be as a Stars fan better off with the penalty shot.
Yeah, yeah, that's an interesting idea. It's in certain, like maybe at that point you take the penalty shot, but if that was like a rule moving forward, maybe you take a power play in certain situations.
Yeah, it kind of comes. It's sort of like that, you know, fourth and goal situation in football. Like at the end of the game, do you kick the field goal to take it into overtime, or do you go for the
Go
win
for it.
right there? It's a little bit of that situation. But yeah, that would be kind of cool. Just add a little drama and give teams that choice of which they want to do. But yeah, so we went into overtime. Didn't last too long in overtime. Stars score on that power play. Thomas Harley finishes it off for the Stars. They punch their ticket to the Western Conference Final. Match up against the Oilers. A rematch from last year's conference finals. Thoughts on this? You're an Oilers fan. How do you feel about this matchup?
Well, before we get to that handshake line was probably the most emotional thing I've seen in hockey since, I mean, for me, Edmonton losing last year. But man, like I know it was getting a little dusty in our living room as he's going down the line. And the one that was the most stood out was Mason Marchment, whose dad also died recently, and they just having an embrace and kind of talking it out. And even Jamie Benn, who we kind of ripped, just letting him know, hey, we're here for you. It was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best traditions in hockey is that handshake line where you just beat the shit out of each other for 6 or 7 games and then show that kind of respect and with everything that happened with Scheifele there, it just added to the emotion of the whole experience. So I agree, very cool moment and just a you know classy sort of way to finish the game there.
Yeah, but moving forward, it's going to be a different series this year. Edmonton, I would say, is deeper, whereas Dallas, I think, has vastly improved on the top end. And I don't know, they play each other pretty well. Like they played just shortly after the Rantanen trade, and it was Edmonton was actually out to a 4-1 lead in that game. Ended up winning 5-4 with their classic prevents style defense, which they don't do very well. Rantanen definitely scares me. Um, I don't know. I think Edmonton's speed's going to give him a little bit more issue than Winnipeg did. but it's going to be good. I think they've got the edge in goaltending and defense for sure, but that kind of goes out the window when you got 97 coming right down at you at top speed. Like, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I kind of like the Oilers to get it done. I think it's, two great teams. So I'm kind of just cheering at this point for what I want to see, and I'm still holding out hope for that Oilers Leafs finals. I just think that would be such a cool storyline. I want to see Connor and Leon get their cup. It's cool to see. I think it's probably safe to say that Connor McDavid is the greatest hockey player to ever play at this point in terms of just that skill level. We're seeing him at his absolute prime right now, so I'm just savoring every moment. I want to see as many games at this guy playing at this level in the playoffs, and I want to see him get it done. That's not really a sort of an X's and O's sort of analysis on why I think they're going to win. I just think, yeah, they're getting that depth scoring. They've got confidence in their goaltending, and when you've got guys like Connor and Leon that can, you just like we saw in the other series, you just let them slip for 5 minutes and they put one in the net. So it's hard to contain them for a whole series.
I got to give a shout out to the Dallas crowd last night too. Like that place was pumping. And we're going to watch game 7 tonight and I just hope that the Leafs crowd can even bring half that energy. Like the Leafs got to have the shittiest home ice advantage in the league, right? Like the other night, obviously they got their asses kicked, so there wasn't a lot to cheer about, but from puck drop there was no noise at all. Whereas last night for the Dallas, like it was loud all the time. I really give tip of the cap to the Dallas crowd.
Yeah, that was a great atmosphere, and it's a place you don't really think of as like a hockey hotbed. Um, Obviously, they got some good fans there, uh, and yeah, that place was rocking. So it's going to be a great series. This is going to be awesome hockey. I'll be having to stay up past my bedtime a lot to watch these ones, but I think it'll be worth it. Yeah, you got to feel good. Skinner going in with two straight shutouts. You're getting depth scoring from tons of guys. Like you mentioned, 11 different guys scoring against Vegas. So, yeah, a lot of confidence. Edmonton played their last game last Wednesday. This series doesn't start until this upcoming Wednesday. So, a full week's rest for the Oilers. That's probably good and bad. Do you think that's a net positive or negative with that much time off?
It's hard. Like on the one side now, you got the possibility of Ekholm making an appearance in this. Like the longer that Jets Stars series went, the reality of him coming back was more and more, and it sounds like he'll be ready for game 3. So that's kind of awesome because we're getting our number one defenseman back. But they were clicking, and the defense and playing in their own end was working so good. The penalty kill was awesome. So I'm hoping that can keep going. It's hard when you have a week off. I don't know if you saw the post game interview stuff with McDavid after they put Vegas out, and he's just like in full robot mode. It reminded me of Kobe Bryant when they were up 2-0, I think, against the Celtics, and he just kept saying, "Job's not done, job's not done." Like, I don't know if this guy has any joy in his life at all. And maybe it's all going to come out if they do end up winning it. But I mean, it's crazy to see somebody who's obviously the best at something be that laser focused, even in a moment of, something you
Yeah.
accomplished.
It'll be interesting if he gets a cup this year. If we'll see like a little bit of a cheerier side of McDavid in those press conferences next year. I think he's just on such a mission, and yeah, he's kind of got bringing that Mamba mentality that we saw with Kobe. But it'd be tough to be sort of one of those scrum reporters after the game trying to get a decent soundbite out of McDavid. But
Yeah, he's not giving them much.
yeah. But yeah, so we're excited for that one. It starts next Wednesday, so we got a few days to relax. I think in the big picture, getting a little extra rest for the key guys is the benefit will outweigh any rustiness, especially with the battles that the Stars have just went through in the last two series. So Yeah, I think maybe you'll see a little rust in the first part of the first game, but I think they'll shake it off pretty quick and get rolling. So, yeah, we'll look forward to a great series there. Let's move out to the West because let's move out to the East. We got Leafs Panthers Game 7 tonight. What a roller coaster this has been over the past week. I think, we got to start maybe talking about this with Game 5 last Wednesday. Obviously, a terrible performance from the Leafs. They get embarrassed on their home ice and, really don't bring, a surprising lack of effort and care for where they're at in the playoffs. But I thought the reaction the next couple of days was just crazy, especially from Leafs fans. Like, they had, all you hear is the Leafs being dead and buried after that game. It's still 3-2. It's not like they weren't out of it. And I texted you at one point and said, what are all these Leafs fans that are burying the team now? What are they going to say if the Leafs win Game 6? Are they all of a sudden now back on? It's just funny to see a fan base turn as quickly as they do on their own team, because they did the exact same thing in the Ottawa series, and when they lost 2 in a row and Ottawa pushed it to 6 games.
It's some of the articles that came out, like they're literally running Mitch Marner out of town. Like I think some people would have probably went down and helped him pack his shit that right after that game. And it's so up and down. Like maybe I don't know, maybe it's just that team and it's just extremes all the time. Like I'm sure it's the same in Edmonton or any of these big hockey markets. But like you said, you're not out of it yet. You got to win one more game and you give yourself a chance to come back at home. And, probably the biggest Leaf game in 30 years going on tonight. I don't know. Are they actually, do they want them to fail? Like it,
Well, that's what I'm starting to think. I think Leafs fans don't actually want them to win the Stanley Cup. I think the pain of losing has become such a part of their identity. It's like that sort of self-sabotage type of thing where you've got the opportunity to change your behavior right in front of you, but you keep sabotaging yourself. It's like it almost felt like a sense of relief in a weird dysfunctional way after Game 5 when you see everybody can now say, there we are. We told you so. We need to break these guys up. They don't care. They can't do it. And whether they can or they can't, it remains to be seen. But if you're a fan of a team, shouldn't you be the one that's supporting them when everybody else is doubting them? Shouldn't you be like giving the benefit of the doubt to try to get the job done? Like we talk about the Islanders fans. They need a little bit of that Islander fan bravado when you were chirping the Islanders a little bit online, and those fans came after you. I got to think if the Islanders were down 3-2, those Islander fans would be wouldn't
showing
be
up.
jumping off the ship so quick.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And I've talked to a bunch of Leaf fans leading into the game tonight. Everybody's pumped. But if there's one fucking Mitch Marner backhander up the middle pass, we're running them right out of town again tomorrow. So it's a friggin' roller coaster.
Yeah, but it sets up. We didn't talk too much about Game 6. It was nice to see the Leafs bounce back there.
For sure.
Kind of a safe effort on both sides. It seemed like one of those games where they were trying not to make a mistake versus really going for it. I guess that can happen with so much on the line, but nice to see Matthews get on the scoreboard. Hopefully that gives him a little confidence going into Game 7. But I didn't think Game 6 was the most entertaining game as much as it was just a relief if you're cheering for the Leafs to say, okay, we've evened it up. Now we're heading to Game 7.
And nothing against the Leafs, but Florida looked shot that game. Like they didn't look like the Florida we'd seen in the previous 3 games. And that happens over a playoff series. Or season, you get a few duds here and there. But heading into Game 7, Paul Maurice is, I believe, 6-0 in Game 7s. So that the Leafs don't have history on their side, but I expect to be a much better effort from Florida going into Game 7.
Yeah, I think we'll see both teams bring their A game tonight. At least, I'm hoping for sort of a classic game one way or the other. This is what the playoffs are all about and what intrigues me most about following it, especially not so much on the Florida side because they've won their cup, they've proven themselves. So if they go out in this series, I don't think it's going to change the narrative on that team too much. But when you look at this Leafs team, this is coming, all these years is coming down to one game, right? Like, I think the outcome of this game is going to dictate how we remember Marner, Matthews, Tavares, and Nylander, maybe for the rest of our lives, or at least the next several years, right? Like, and if they lose, that core gets broken up in some way or another. If they win, that could be the spark, the momentum they need to carry them through to the Cup Finals and possibly be known, go down as one of the greatest Leafs teams of all time. So it's exciting when sports comes down to three periods, well, maybe some overtime, but one game that can tip the fate and just the way we remember hockey history on a moment like this.
It's like you said back when the Jets had the big comeback, and they were literally 2 minutes away from, falling apart to now they're heroes. But I think in this case, it's that same narrative cranked up on steroids. Like tomorrow morning, no matter what happens, it's gonna be changes or just absolute joy for those Leaf fans.
You could pretty much write we talked a little bit about the journalist perspective on the last episode. I think you could write the two headlines right now before the game even started.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
either
for
going to
sure.
be the world is collapsing in Leafland, blow this shit up, everybody needs to fucking be fired, or it's look at this Leafs team. They finally
Yeah.
figured it out. Team of destiny. This is the year. Greatest Leafs team in the last 25 years, and that makes it exciting that the outcome of this game is going to create one of those two polar opposite extremes.
I saw a clip of after the game 6 win by the Leafs, and it was somebody in that Leafs watch party thing yelling out, "We want Carolina," and everyone
Jeez.
telling him to shut up. It was actually pretty funny. They have learned that place is going to be absolutely nuts tonight. Like no one's got to work tomorrow. If you own something around there, I'd be boarding up the windows just in case they do lose, because I think you're going to see some crazy partying going on down there.
Yeah, ratings wise, they couldn't have got a better night for it. It is funny though, like when we talk about the wins and losses, you only remember the wins and losses, right? Like I was thinking back to that Boston series last year. Leafs lost that heartbreaker in overtime. But how much of that game do you remember? Do you remember who played well, who didn't play well? All you remember is the takeaway is that they blew
Yeah.
the series to Boston. So again, just to not to hammer that point too much, but it's like it really comes down to the win or loss. If they lose, it's not going to be. We're not going to remember it as they lost, but they played so good in Game 7. They really worked hard. So it all comes down to that win or loss. So yeah,
I
wow,
can't wait. I can't
yeah, what
wait.
a night of hockey that's going to be. Okay, so how do we segue from the most exciting possible outcome to the Canes Capitals series to wrap that one up? It's the Canes are kind of getting shit on for their boring style of play. I mean, if you're a Canes player and a Canes fan, you probably don't really give a shit too much. They're back in the conference finals. Kiss my Conn Smythe futures bet for Tom Wilson. That came and went in a hurry. It was, I guess I was a bit of a pipe dream there. Luckily, I only put a couple bucks on it. But yeah, the Canes make short work of the Caps in what was sort of I guess, the least competitive matchup in round two. They're on to the conference finals to play the winner of the Leafs Panthers tonight.
This is like pretty much modern New Jersey Devils hockey, right? Like take care of your own end. You got one of the best defensive defensemen in Slavin out there just shutting everybody down. But I don't think they've really even been challenged much defensively, right? Like they're not playing the offensive juggernauts. That's why I think if the Leafs can actually get past Florida, I think they will make the finals because I don't think Carolina can handle an offensive team like with that much firepower. But I give them props for, that like you were saying, they stuck to a style and it's clearly working. And at the end of the day, who cares if it's not exciting as long as you're winning? But it's just so hard to get into.
Yeah, yeah, it's a bit tough. We haven't, maybe if we see them against more of an offensively minded
Sure.
team with a little more firepower, we'll see more
Open things
exciting
up.
play out of there. It's like it's hard to blame them too much for, playing a system that as they've only lost a few games in the playoffs here, but yeah, I got to respect because one thing I feel like you don't see a lot of teams do, I think the Canes have done this perfectly. They bring in Brindamore, who has a very specific style that he wants to play. And then through the draft, through the trades, through the development process, they find the exact pieces that match that style and play it perfectly. So there's like a real identity to that team. I feel like Florida did the same thing, right? You love them or hate them. They've got a very distinct style that they want to play, and they go out and they get the exact pieces to fit that style, where I feel like a lot of teams, sort of what's the identity? There's kind of just, if you just go out and sort of grab the best players you can get your hands on, but you're not really bringing them in as part of any sort of cohesive structure or game plan.
Right.
I think that's a lot of what the Leafs problems have been over the year. A lot of good talent that isn't really being harnessed in a way that fits any sort of certain style of play.
Well, perfect example is Colorado this year, right? Basically turn over their whole lineup and you got all these names up and down and it's I don't know. You need the cohesion, that's for sure. And it's nice to have, obviously, if you can bring in a team star to add to your lineup, that's great, but it doesn't clearly doesn't always work, right? So I agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
props to Carolina.
But we do this every week. We try to find something nice to say about Carolina because they are winning. But at the end of the day, I think the a Dallas Carolina Stanley Cup Finals would kind of be worst case scenario. It's funny, we've got dream scenario Leafs Oilers just in terms of ratings and entertainment, at least in Canada, and then you've got the two sort of least interesting hockey markets left in the playoffs with Dallas and Canes, which could very well happen, and then that would be a bit of a tough watch.
And kind of another interesting thing is that if the Leafs do end up winning tonight, every team left will have had or tried to trade for Rantanen because the Leafs apparently had a deal offered to Carolina. Carolina shot it down. And Edmonton apparently did too. They just didn't have enough to make the deal happen. So Rantanen's all over this Final Four.
Yeah, interesting take on that. I never thought about that. So we'll see if his magic continues into the playoffs. So there you have it. We've got Western Conference set up. We've got Canes waiting for the winner of the game tonight, and just like that, we're on to the conference finals. It feels like we just started talking about round one, and it's been a bit of a blur. Hell of a ride so far through with some great moments. But yeah, we'll see if that continues tonight and set up our Eastern Conference Finals for next week. So with those series covered, I think it's a good time to jump over to our weekly hazing.
Let's go.
So with the weekly hazing this week, I wanted to start with a question for you, Charlie. We're actually going to go junior hockey here and say, can anyone challenge the London Knights in the Memorial Cup this year? They're just a machine. You were there game two against Oshawa last week. What did you see from this team, and what's your kind of take as they head into the Memorial Cup?
It's just speed and skill and just quality up and down that lineup. Like at one point during that game with Oshawa, because Oshawa is a pretty loaded team too, there was like 7 guys on the ice that were first round NHL picks, and the speed of that game was crazy. And they had Callum Ritchie and that Beckett Seneca out there for Oshawa, and London was just making them look like an average team. I don't know enough about the Quebec teams to say that London's going to run the table, but I don't know. They're just so deep, and the goaltending's been insane. like we talk about, you talk about drafting and how it's, you know, kind of an your crapshoot for some of these things. This kid, Austin Elliott, so he was cut by Saskatoon. He lost his job and they ended up cutting him. He goes to London, 32-1 in the regular season and 16-1 in the playoffs. And this kid, like he's calm. He just makes the saves that he has to make. It helps that you got, you know, probably four future NHL defensemen in front of you for sure. But the speed and skill of this team, I can't see anyone beating them in this tournament.
Yeah, it's tough to see. A lot of people are comparing them to, or saying they're the best Knights team since that 2005 team with Corey Perry, which some consider to be the greatest junior team ever assembled. I think they only lost 7 games that whole year. But yeah, they're stacked. I also haven't watched as much of the QHL, but from everything I'm hearing, I don't think either Rimouski or Moncton are going to put up a fight or give them a real run. I think probably the biggest challenge is going to come from Medicine Hat in the West. You know, obviously they've got Gavin McKenna there and a couple other nice prospects. So that should be an interesting game. That one's the Memorial Cup starts this Friday. And Medicine Hat London is the following Tuesday, May 27th. So mark that one on your calendar. That'll be a fun game to watch.
Absolutely. I want to see McKenna against these guys because they London's just can just roll three lines at you of guys that just don't stop. And obviously Dale Hunter's got them finely tuned. And I'll tell you, at that game, I was watching, you know, trying to focus on certain guys. And that Sam Dickinson is going to be one awesome defenseman. He's just so smart and always in the right place. And just an awesome guy to watch. Like, it was just a fun game. If you ever get to go to a London Knights game, they put on a great show.
Yeah, it will be. If you're a San Jose Sharks fan, you've got to be pretty optimistic about the quality of hockey you're going to be seeing for the next while. Like with seeing the way Celebrini's clicking over at the World Championships with obviously with Crosby, that makes it a little easier. But he looks like he belongs right there with the top guys. So yeah, things looking bright in San Jose, and we'll see if anybody can stop the Knights. It looks like they've got too much firepower to be slowed down, but we'll see. Things kick off next Friday. Next question in our weekly hazing I wanted to ask you is it too early to start talking about Mikko Rantanen as the greatest trade deadline move of all time?
That's a good one. I was looking up, I tried to find some other super impactful deadline moves, and it's hard to argue with the resume up to this point. And I mean, if they finish this out, it's obviously got to be him because he is dominated. He didn't do too much last night, but he made some plays and they obviously won. But the rate that he's scoring at is kind of unmatched for a deadline guy. One that I came up with was Jeff Carter going to the Kings in 2011-12. And he ended up scoring 8 goals for them that year. They win the cup. But it was 2 years later where he had a crazy playoff run and they won the cup again. So that's not a bad one. Oilers getting this one kind of surprised me because I forgot about the trade, but the Oilers getting Ekholm for Tyson Barrie and Reed Schaefer seems like an absolute steal. Obviously, they haven't won anything yet, but that's, you're getting a number one defenseman for, well, one guy's not even in the league anymore, and I believe the other guy's buried in the AHL somewhere. So, bit of a steal there.
Yeah, that's a good one too. The couple I had noted down was Ron Francis got traded in 1991 from Hartford. Came over. Who else? Now I kind of forget who he came over with. Anyways, Ron Francis got traded to Pittsburgh in 91. They win back-to-back cups. Obviously, they had Mario there, but Francis was a pretty key piece of that team with his leadership. The other one is Ray Borg in 2000. The Avs get him. He wins the cup there. So a couple, Yeah, some good ones. I think in all of those cases, the players that got traded for the teams went on to win the cup. So I think maybe
That's it.
the question is it too early? Maybe it is a tad too early, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on. He's got them to the conference finals. If they win the cup, it's a no-brainer that it's the best trade deadline move of all time, because I think the big difference with Rantanen and those other guys that we talked about, Rantanen is the best player on that team right now.
Yeah.
He's leading the playoffs in scoring. He's single-handedly got them past the first round and has been carrying them offensively through the whole playoffs. Where those other guys like Francis and Borg and Ekholm, more all great players, but more role players. But to make a deal at the trade deadline that gets you your best player that leads the playoffs in scoring and kind of single-handedly elevates you to another level, yeah, that could be a historic move.
Yeah, I never thought about it that way, but that's pretty crazy. Yeah, if he sees this through, this is without a doubt the number one of all time.
So last question for the weekly hazing here I wanted to run past you. Does Vegas have real fans? Because you sent me a clip of the Vegas watch party outside the arena. It looked pretty sparse and uninspired to say the least.
This is a joke, right? Like, you talk about real fans and every team in a playoff run's going to gain some bandwagon fans. But there was one watch party that was out at some resort where it looked like there was maybe 40 people there and everyone just looking at their phones. And I thought, okay, well, maybe this is a one-off event. But then I saw a clip of right outside the arena and there's like a stage and a band playing and stuff. And I'm telling you, there couldn't have been more than about 150 people there. And the guy trying to hype it up. And they're talking, this is supposed to be one of the big party cities in North America, and they're getting bodied by Winnipeg, Manitoba. Like, I don't think anyone actually likes this team at all. It's just a thing to do.
It's weird because the atmosphere at those games looks electric. Like the crowd's there, but is it just a bunch of Canadians that are just down there traveling? I don't know. What's the temperatures like in Vegas? Maybe these outdoor watch parties are a little bit
Yeah, I just think it's an absolute absolute joke. Like, if you can't support your team, and not only that, but you're playing probably the most exciting team to watch, and you still can't get enough people to come out and hype up the team. They should be embarrassed.
Yeah, yeah, I can't imagine there's too many. Well, they've won a cup, so you'd think there'd be some loyal fans there, but you got a lot competing for your attention there in Vegas. So
That's true.
maybe if you're not actually at the game, you think there's probably more entertaining things to do. My guess is probably most of the actual hardcore Vegas fans don't actually live right in Vegas where the arena is. They're probably, maybe the watch parties just haven't caught on. But you're right. Yeah, it's an interesting city and hockey culture there.
Well, and what's going to happen, right? Like, they've only known the team to be good. So what happens when this team has to rebuild? Like, if they can't get people out when they're in the friggin' playoffs, what are they going to do when they're, bottom of the league?
Yeah, good point. Those watch parties, they're going to have to figure out maybe have more strippers or something out there or something to get the crowd hyped up. I don't know. Anyways, well, that was good. Good little discussions for the weekly hazing. Let's shift gears and go over to our report card segment for the week. Do you want to kick things off?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to give an F and then a B to the Lay It On the Line commercial. I'm sure we've all seen it 300 times. And, the first round, I was like, God damn it, I don't want to hear this song anymore. But now, as we get more into it, I find myself actually listening to that song more. And the other day, so my son, who's 12, is walking around the house singing a Triumph song from 1979, and you can't help but like it. So I'm going to give it an F, but then promote it to a B for Lay It On the Line.
Nice. I'm going to go with a D to fans throwing their jerseys on the ice. I kind of compare this to the hockey equivalent of punching a hole in the wall when you're mad It's like it kind of maybe gives you that momentary satisfaction of an outlet for your frustration, but then you're left with a broken hand and a wall that you got to fix. Any Leafs fan that's passionate enough to throw their jersey on the ice after that game is probably a big enough Leafs fan where they're not going to stop cheering for that team. So you're going to have to go out and buy another jersey. So you may as well just crumple up a few $100s and throw it on the ice. And also, are you really actually making any meaningful, moving the needle at all with that sign of frustration with your team? Anyways, so I'm giving that a D.
I'm going to give an A to Thomas Harley of the Dallas Stars. You saw, I'm going to be honest, I was not too familiar with his game before the Four Nations. The guy stepped up massive in that tournament. And then last night, 2 points, 25 minutes played, and the game winning goal. This guy's 23, and he's just going to be an absolute stud for that team. So A for Thomas Harley.
I'm giving an A to the Philadelphia Flyers for getting the job done, getting Rick Tocchet signed there. I think obviously he's a legend there in that city. We've talked about it a couple times on the podcast, what a good fit. But I think you see the reboot from the Flyers happen real quick with that move. The young talent, we're going to see Mishkov, a whole another side of him, I think, this year, and all the other young talent. We're going to see them in the playoffs for sure this year, and probably be a contender now for the next several years. So good job, Flyers. Give a solid B for getting the job done and signing a legend as your head coach.
All right, I'm giving a B plus to Latvia. So this is a country of 1.8 million people, and for some reason they seem to be able to do defense and goaltending better than any other country of that sort of lower tier. I was watching them play Finland the other day, and it was all Finland could do to score 2 goals on them. And like, these defensive and goaltending coaching systems need to be studied by North America, because it's not like they got this massive talent pool to draw from, but they've got a style and it just seems to be working. So B plus for Latvia.
Nice. I'm giving an A plus to playoff handshake lines. We talked about it earlier in the episode, but I had it on here. You know, one of the best parts about hockey in general is the playoff handshake lines, going to war with your fellow competitors, leaving it all on the line, as the song says, but then being able to kind of step up there man to man, show respect, and honor sort of the battle that you just went through. So it's always great to see. The one last night was particularly meaningful, so I'm giving an A plus to playoff handshake lines.
All right, I got an A plus for AC/DC. So we're like 50 plus years into this band's career. And when we were at the Knights game, we were sitting there and it was heading into the third and the crowd was kind of dying. And all of a sudden they started playing Thunderstruck, a song I've heard, 1,000 times. And I was just sitting there thinking, like, holy shit, these guys, maybe they set out to do it, maybe they didn't, but they've just written the best arena songs and pump up songs for decades. And then I started thinking, like, my son's hockey team listens to these guys still today in the dressing room to pump them up. And that kind of longevity is kind of crazy, and hell of a run for the Stadium Rockers. So A plus for AC/DC.
And just to add on to that, the fact that they did it with two different singers, like
Yeah.
that, almost like equal parts of their success happened with two different singers, is pretty phenomenal as well. Anyways, I'm going to go with a C minus for Skechers slip-on shoes. Now, I appreciate sneaker technology evolving and advancing and trying to find ways to get more performance out of our sneakers, but are we putting a little too much emphasis on this not having to bend over to put your shoes on? Like, I get the convenience, but personally, I'd be a little more concerned if I could not bend over to put my shoe on. Like, I get it if you have certain health challenges but they're promoting this as almost like we should stop even trying to bend over. We just, let's just get fat and stiff and out of shape, and we never have to worry about tying our shoes again. So Yeah, Skechers promoting their slip-on sneakers to people that are still in their 30s and 40s. I just don't like the direction that's going.
All right, finally, I've got an F for the Mexican Navy ship that drove into the Brooklyn Bridge. Like, I'm not sure Mexico's known for their naval academy or this their navy in general, but when you can't notice the Brooklyn Bridge is getting closer and closer, I'm not sure I'm going to trust you in any sort of firefight. So I don't know who's running the navigation on that. It's not like the bridge moves or just popped up. But have you seen that video?
No, I'm gonna have to check it out.
They just float right into it. And like I'm hoping nobody died because there was apparently 200 people on the boat. But it's like it's just coming right at the bridge.
Yeah, you
So
can
yeah,
see it coming from a ways away, probably. Yeah.
so Mexican naval ship F.
Well, that's a good one. Well, that's a nice way to wrap up the report card segment. Now let's, go to the outro here. We got lots to wrap up. One thing before we check out, Charlie, is I want to revisit something we brought up last time. We were talking about the Genghis Khan bloodlines. And I just wanted to fact check something because I think I said that 20% of the world's population is a descendant of Genghis Khan. I overstated that a little bit. It's actually 1 out of every 20 people, so a 0.5%. But 1 out of every 20 people. So at the Leafs game tonight, there's probably going to be 1,000 of Genghis Khan's relatives in the arena. So
I'm
he's
glad you cleared that up because a lot of Genghis Khan people were coming at me about that.
we were getting a lot of feedback on the Genghis Khan. So definitely a prolific lover regardless. And don't get me started on his young lad Kubla. He was known as quite the coxman too, so he helped this. But I guess with the concubines they had, and after a hard day of pillaging, would really get them horned up. And you know what
Just
Kubla
throwing
always
down.
said: if the yurts are rocking, don't come a knocking. Anyways, so just a little update on our Genghis Khan there. Yeah, a little hazy history segment for you guys. Moving on here though, Charlie, we got some exciting Game 7 tonight. We're going to do another Hazy Night in Canada live. So if you guys are interested, we're probably going to be doing a few more of these throughout the playoffs. If you're listening and you're not subscribed on YouTube, go ahead and do that because then you can get these notifications and make sure you're getting updated when we go live with these events. Other than that, anything you want to cover before we check out for the day?
Oh, we got NBA Game 7 today.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm pulling for SGA. Like he's on the verge here of a Jordan type year where he could win the MVP if they make the finals and win. You're in the running for finals MVP and a championship. It's got to be the greatest Canadian basketball season of all time. So I'm pulling for OKC for sure.
Yeah, and on the eastern side, it was cool to see the Knicks take down the Celtics and the madness in New York and Times Square that happened after that game.
What a time to be alive here. We're in mid-May and the Leafs and the Knicks are both still in championship contention. It's been a while for that.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the atmosphere at MSG for this Eastern Conference Finals, and if they make it to the finals, that'll be that'll be something. I guess it would be Patrick. Did they ever make it to the finals with Patrick Ewing, or did the
Yes,
Bulls
sir.
get
Don't
it?
you remember John Starks went like 0 for 17 in
Oh,
game
right.
7. Just
Yes,
kept shooting.
yes, that's right.
We were talking about NHL worst case scenarios. Indiana and Oklahoma City's got to be an absolute ratings nightmare.
Yeah, they're definitely pulling for the Knicks to come through in the East to save that. Yeah, good call. Even on the baseball side of things, it's still early in the season. We haven't talked about that much, but don't forget, Charlie, we had a little hazy side bet here with between the
Yeah, I
Tigers and the Jays, and the Tigers leading the MLB in wins right now.
Yeah, I think you've won that one already.
I'm gonna start picking out my T-shirt for my
The
prize.
Jays, the Jays offense is rivaling Carolina Hurricanes for excitement right now. So I think you can probably size out a shirt anytime.
Nice. Well, it is a long season, so we'll see. I won't get too far ahead of myself, but yeah, lots of great stuff in the sports world. So we'll be back next week. All the Eastern Conference series will be underway, so we can check in there and everything else going around in the hockey world. Until then, Charlie, get some rest. We'll see you tonight for a little pre-gaming for our Game 7.
Go Leafs, go.
Let's do it.